All right, so what did we do? We changed the thing that we're passing. Hey, Justice. How's it going? You came back. How's your Sunday been going? I did, yeah. Yeah, as soon as I get the like the whole build process stuff figured out. You have other stuff to do lately? Yeah, makes sense. Oh, you got a new job. Well, congrats. Hope it's been going good so far. So, if we send test, now we can see the assistant says testing. Seems good. That's great. And if I click use this message, there. All right, that part works too. Very nice. All right. So, I think honestly this does a lot, right? Because assuming the API does what it's supposed to do, where it takes the list of messages and spits back a new list that just adds on like the system's response and we display it, then it should be good. There's something missing though. Yeah, there is something missing because we are not adding the message from the form to the messages that are being sent. API written in Rust? Maybe someday. Right now, the API doesn't exist. And it's saying about this. I mean, I can make a separate service that is just a proxy for. I'm seriously considering that. It'd be different. What I had intended to do, because I'm already using Django for the thing that this front end component is going to be sitting in, I'll probably do that initially. Is just like add an endpoint in Django for this to call. Somehow, I don't know if I'll like. There's an API framework thing for Django that you can add and do all that. I don't know if I'm going to do all that. At some point, we may exceed. Like we may get to the point where I want to do things where it's going to stop making sense to use Django for this. The main reason I'm using Django is for the admin app stuff, which means I can just like define the models and I get like free admin like CRUD for it, which for just getting started is good for like, you know, having something. Anyway, so for this though, right now, the thing that we're missing here is adding the message to the messages. Like, oh, like that. But not really like that. We probably want to, I mean, we could use a ref on the text area, but it's honestly probably just easier to be like const message set message like this, and then we can read message content is probably a better name. I'm gonna read those chat messages in just a second. I swear. I wanna get this down before I lose track of what I was doing. So let's see, on change. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Okay, so that'll set the message content, and then we'll use the message content with a role of user, which is the right role there for the response. So that should be good. All right. So you used Next.js API stuff before, and I kind of don't like the coupling it creates between front end and back end. Yeah. The other web app that most of my coding streams have been about, Daily Jewel, is started. Well, it didn't really start, but it ended up being a similar boat where I was using Next.js. But I ended up using TRPC. And so there's some coupling there because it's a very like specific thing, but it did provide kind of a clean API separation between front end and back end. Protobuf. Yeah, I'm not sure about Protobuf for web app APIs. Copilot being as helpful as it is annoying. Yep. That's right. Yep. I mean, I was saying earlier, the other thing I've been playing around recently is playing around with ChatGPT. Not so much for coding, although a little bit, but also for working on a novel, a piece of fiction that I had done some kind of sketches and world building for like a decade ago or more. Yeah. But no, it's been fun kind of seeing what it will come back with. And then, yeah, I know. I mean, I actually have a couple of chapters of it just like going wild, just like, hey, write this chapter for me. Right. Yeah, that is a thing. It is mine, definitely. But it's something that I, after iterating through it a few times, am just like, okay, this tells me, I think the best thing about it is showing all the things I don't want in the novel, right? Because it does, you can see the tropes, you can see the cliche, you can see the short-sighted, ill-considered character choices that it generates for you. And then it's just a lot of like, oh, I don't want that. No, the character shouldn't be like that. No, that doesn't work. And now I'm going back through and rewriting by hand the first chapter. Inspired by some of the things that I did think worked, rearranged some other things. So it's good in terms of, I think, I definitely, if you have like a writer's block where you just can't get anything down, I think it's probably a good aid for that. All right. Well, let's see. So I see Ariel. This is a Little Mermaid. All right, I'll have to check that out later. Okay, so this should work though. Well, not really work, but this should take the message that I type in, and then we see that message, and we see the response from the system that's being mocked. So this tells me something else. I don't want these buttons for the user messages. So already, having this mock API is kind of clarifying, how the UI should work without having to, do a bunch of analysis or thinking. Who wants to think? So let's see. We want to have something where it's like message.roll. I think probably like that. So if the message came back from the assistant, then we want to show the button to accept that message. Like that. Now, let's talk about styling. How do I want to do this? I guess this could just be position absolute. Yeah. Right, maybe like 3 rem, bottom 3 rem, min height. Well, min width could be like 20 VWs. Min height could be maybe like 50 VWs, 30 VWs. How do you do the once you use something like Olama for the assistant responses? I feel like I saw something, maybe it was Hacker News, about Olama. I'll is that like a yeah, locally? Yeah. Cool. Maybe at some point. Yeah, I think I was saying earlier, before I get distracted, that when I was looking at doing the transcription for the like taking the local recordings and extracting the audio and doing transcriptions, that I wanted to do something where I could host it locally, because I didn't want to have to pay basically, because they start to add up in price for, like, you know, we're talking like 3 hours, we're talking like 12 hours a week of audio transcription to do. But anyway, so, and that seemed to be a good solution. And then I've just been doing so much stuff with ChatGPT. They have an API, and it didn't seem like it was too costly for this to do the kind of summarization of the transcripts using it. You know, a future thing could be to try out like a self-hosted solution instead. So I'm not saying no, but I have at least tested the API. Oh yeah, you get a link to API docs for Olama. I don't suppose they have like a pre-built Docker container you can just run locally. So you can give it a model and a prompt. Can you prompt in a stream, create a model, list local models, show model information, copy a model, delete, pull, embeddings. Ooh. You can, yeah. So the Open API, the Open API is a different thing. The Open AI API does exist, and I can call that, and it is a REST API. I have a tab somewhere actually, but one of these tabs, here it is. So this is what I was testing with earlier in a Jupyter notebook. Oh, with local Docker? Yeah, that is fair. You can't run this locally. But what I was planning on doing just for now is to use that API, at least a little bit. I don't have a good sense of like what this is going to end up costing if I do this for everything, but at least for playing around with it for now, it's going to be fine. Okay, so I want to do styles. Container style. Can I do that? I can do that, right? Position. Kind of overly avert to paying for anything. That's fair. I have definitely come into the I'm more willing to pay for things, you know, between Copilot and ChatGPT. You know, at some point I'll cross the threshold where it's not it's too much money, but for now it's okay. I mean, just the amount of entertainment I've gotten from how silly some of the, you know, just kind of the interactions with like working on the novel has been worth it. But definitely if I was thinking about like how am I going to like turn this project into a product, I'd have bigger concerns about those kind of expenditures. So we're gonna do min width. So 20 VWs. GitHub education for the win. You won't use Copilot after that. Okay. Yep. So is that a thing if you're like, I'm assuming GitHub education is like if you're enrolled in school at some level, you get that? School uni, yep. Yeah, I said school is kind of a, a catch-all. I mean, I guess it would be some kind of university you would be talking about since you just said you got a new job, but I don't know. Let's verify that still works. There we go. And what is this complaining about? String is not assignable to type position and find. Detailed HTML props, HTML. Okay, so what is the CSS properties? There we go. So what if this was of type CSS properties? There, that made it happy. Yeah, you're in. Yeah, I figured that was the situation from what you said. Yes, you're going to university and now working a different job, apparently, because you say you had a new job. It sounds like you have a lot to do. All right. And then let's sort out. I mean, the heading stylings and stuff. We could do all sorts of things, but I don't really. It's not the end of the world. What exactly it looks like. Oh, I see. We're inheriting. Let's see. Do we want to just say text align left over the whole thing? I think so. Text align left. All right. And then, I mean, this is fine in terms of like, I guess we could also like do background. Color? Maybe not. Opacity? No, definitely not. Backgrounds. Blend mode? No. RGBA? So we could do like 0.5. Wait. Oh, right. 255. There we go. We can do something like that. Just making some stuff up to for this to make sense when it gets integrated to where we're putting it. Well, I'm not actually really in uni. Details. Part of a program at your local uni. So I'm kind of at school uni and have a job. It sounds complicated. All right, so let's kind of is, yeah. Let's see here. Let's see. What do I want to do here? I think I'm just going to get rid of the label. And the form, I'm going to add style. Form style. Style. Yeah. That'll be fine. Do const form style equals CSS properties. I'm not really used to doing CSS like this versus having something like Material UI or whatever. Why not get rid of the Vite and React stuff first of all? It's almost always the first thing you do on new projects using Vite. Yeah, maybe. You're kind of a Svelte fan, so usually Vite plus Svelte for you. I mainly chose this because this was just like I guess that's not really true for the Django thing because I hadn't used Django for like a decade, but for this was just kind of like the first thing that, you know, it was something that I was familiar with and I've used for well, now we're using it for Daily Jewel. The screens that I use, like when I start the stream and when I take the break and stuff, all of that is a React plus Vite. Oh, you mean literally this? You mean literally this thing here, the thing that says, oops, that says React plus Vite. Yep. No, I read way more into that than what you said. Because no reason at all. There. Let's add some more styling to the form. So we're gonna do some like one, I don't think that would actually work in this context, but good try, Copilot. I just want to add some margin top to that area. Yeah. And I probably want to add some padding. Ooh, what does that do? Padding. Backdrop filter. Think that does anything? That's too much of that. We'll see. We'll see. But this is okay. If I had an image as the background, yeah. What does backdrop filter actually do? Lets you apply a graphical effect such as blurring or color shifting to the area behind an element. Okay, so like if we have this actually integrated into the Django app, then we'll see a blurred background behind our element, which could be cool. And this is definitely a start. Why not use a proper CSS file instead? Because I'm lazy. Because yeah, it's for a modal, exactly. The goal here is not to run the like what I want to do, and I still don't know exactly how I'm going to accomplish. I want to take this component and I want to drop it into the Django app, but I don't want to bring yeah, get that mosquito. All right. I don't want to like run yeah, I don't know exactly what I want to do. Ideally what I want to do is maybe just take, maybe I could just, well, how is this going to work? How is this going to work? Like, so what I want to do is I want to be able to take this file and use it on my Django project. But the Django project, so I need to compile this, right? I need to turn it into JavaScript that I can then take and drop into my Django project in a way that is going to work. Use HTMX. It's almost JavaScript, except for the parts that are TypeScript. Right? It's got all these types in it. But we could turn that into JavaScript. The issue is like right now, how is this going to work, right? So right now it's a React app. We are using React DOM to create a thing. Let's do this. Let's switch over to the Django app, and look at something, try to figure out something I've never tried to figure out before, which is how to integrate React into Django. There's a lib Django components or something like that. Let's see. I don't know. Okay, so definitely templates. What if we, let's see, using React components in Django, admin specifically, right? So right now, the web app that, the thing that I am doing is working in a Django admin app, right? And that's what I'm trying to extend. What I want to do is I want to take my Django admin site and be able to add something to load that component, right? And so specifically, this would be in the context of like probably looking at an episode. Here, I want to load that component and have it interact with the page. What you can do is decouple them. You can write the backend using Python, the front end using React. Yeah, I could do that. Then I would effectively have, right now, I would have two front ends, right? And so this is, no worries. And I failed to say before, but welcome to the stream, Marfriend, ZZZ. Is that okay if I just call you Marfriend? But yeah, I think you're spot on, and it's something that I was saying before around why I might eventually want to switch to away from using Django and like do a full UI, and probably at that point I would probably just move to a different backend, maybe a Rust backend or something. I don't know, but like this, the existence of this was just because it was very easy to get started. And it gives me a CRUD UI, and I can attach some actions to do things like creating transcripts and that sort of thing from the episodes. But now we are kind of like, now how do we integrate like a custom front-end component into this? And it starts to get more complicated and more like we're going to start making compromises to make things work, and eventually we'll reach a point where that's not that becomes really a pain to do. So here's someone talking about doing the opposite, putting a Django admin page and a React component. So yeah. So if you're doing something that's like in CMS, plenty of options the internet offers CMS. Not really. I mean, it is in a way literally a content management system in that I have content, which is to say a bunch of videos, and I want to manage those, but I want to do very specific things to those videos. And more than that, I want to code the application that's doing that for the stream. So that it's kind of this is a thing that's going to hopefully help me take something that's tedious, which is like taking all the recordings from my streams, turn it into like the actual episodes, semi-automate the some of the editing process, or at least give data to my video editor, DaVinci Resolve, to automate that. And like do some integration with a large language model to like do the summarization for the descriptions and that sort of thing, and maybe other things as we go on. And so just like a CMS would give me some kind of CRUD UI for listing the things, but we're mostly not dealing, like the only real text that is in this, typically a CMS, at least the CMSs I'm familiar with, are like managing content for like blogs or marketing or sales or whatever. But the text here is either extracted from the audio as a transcript, or it's like summarizations from a large language model from those transcripts, and a little bit of text that I'm entering. But mostly it's the videos, and at least right now, one of the nice things is like these different operations that I'm doing, it's all running locally. Like I have the recordings locally. I'm not uploading them anywhere yet, although I may do that for like at least for archival purposes. But yeah. Anyway, so how can we? Let's look at this. So Django admin is like a whole thing. It's an admin site. Is there a way for us to override the admin template? There is, right? So we can override many of the templates which the admin module uses to generate the various pages. I think the other thing we probably want to look at is if we go back to this app, what if, so there are a couple of things from Vite scripts here to do like a build. So what if we were to do like npm run build? What is that output? Okay, it's not happy that I imported the thing. Okay, there you go. So we get a CSS file and a JS file and an HTML file. And naturally it doesn't let us see that here. Let's see, dist code dist assets. So what does that JavaScript look like? Right, so we have React. We have some of our code. Like, is the code that's present in main.tsx, that has to be here too, right? The create root. Like, there should be a get element by ID being called const g equals get element by ID r, etc, etc, etc. Like, could we take this JavaScript file and the CSS file and just like add it to our Django project, as long as we have the right ID, which is to say whatever is root, right? We could change this. In fact, maybe we want to change this to be like, so if we go in here to index.html and we change root to be more like chatbot, and then we change main.tsx to target that element, and then redo the build. Now, this is not a complete solution, right? Because now we have, okay, we have a JavaScript file. We probably want to figure out how to like automate getting the dist file to Django, that sort of, like, we could figure that out eventually. But in the short term, this maybe works. Let's just imagine that we, how can we do this? So I think one thing we want to do is if we look in the settings for the project, there should be hopefully no credentials in here, and there should be a thing that allows us to control what static files we're serving, or is it in URLs? So we're serving media URL from media root plus that thing. Is there what am I looking for here? Template, whiskey application, database, validators, static URL. Right, so right now we have like media URL and media root. but we don't. Yeah, static file, CSS, JavaScript, images. We're not actually using this. I don't think we're serving the static URL, but we could do that, right? So if we just add another thing here that's like static, like that, plus, and then of course I think we have to do that for Python, or we just do that. Yeah, there we go. I don't know that we have a static root defined in settings.py. Nope, okay, but we could add one. And path file resolve. So the parent of this path is that this folder, and then that's this folder. That could be right. I think the okay, so I think how's this gonna work? Static root, static URL. So static URL is what we want to keep, and then static root I want to point somewhere else. Just got to think of how I'm going to do that in a way that's going to actually work for this. Bearing in mind that this is running inside of a Docker container, and I think maybe, let's see, if we look at Web 1 and look at bind mounts. So the issue is, I think we're going to, so I could do a couple things. So this is inside of this chatbot directory, which is inside of this directory called video processing tool. So I can either choose to copy the assets from this folder into like a static folder somewhere inside of the project, or I can move chatbot to be inside of this folder so that it's accessible to it. I think for now, it's going to make sense to copy. And the reason for that is because even if we moved the front end app to be inside of the Django project, the name of the files get renamed every build. So it's not like it's just going to work. If we change something here and run build in this, we're still going to have to update the template in the Django app. So there's if we want to continue down this path of trying to incorporate custom UI components into Django, we'll have to figure out how to do that in the long term. For right now, I'm not too worried about that. My hope is that what we've built so far will just work. Now, something that crossed my mind is that I added mock service worker, MSW, but it's not in this build, which is good, right? So we had some custom code to intercept requests, and it's not in this, which is good because it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be part of the production build, right? So we can see here's the reference to API from our actual code, but there's not another reference where we're defining the mock. So that means that the build, because we included in, I think in main.tsx, we have this if dev. So this code is only executed in a dev setting, which means that when the build happens, the code that this depends upon, so the worker, so the import from Mock's browser, none of that is pulled in. It gets cut out of the build, which is good. So that means we're not even shipping the mock endpoint definitions in the build files. So here we go. So here is the assets. Now, the mock service worker is present in the build. We could probably exclude that with... do I want to do that right now? I'm pretty sure that can be excluded either through Vite config or going through Vite to tell... does Vite use Webpack? Well, anyway, I'm sure we could exclude the service worker from the build. The other thing we'd want to do... Right, no, we didn't modify index.html to refer to the service worker, so we should be good. There shouldn't be any references, like as long as we don't ship the mock service worker, all of this code doesn't include any of our testing stuff, which is great. That is a thing that I did want to figure out. One of the reasons I wanted to kind of work with mock service worker with this, like working on this component, is because I've only ever used it in the context of Storybook, where nothing you're building there is shipping as part of your app. It's just like a separate thing. I wanted to make sure that if we did a build in a project that had those handlers for MSW, that they wouldn't be included. And that seems to be the case. So anyway, so in assets, we have these two files. So here's our CSS. Yeah, and we can probably remove... So we have app.css. Another thing I could have done is I could have... Yeah. I think that was what was being asked about before. Why am I defining the CSS in this versus in a file? And I guess the answer is I don't have a... Do I want to change that? So let's take a look at this. So we have app.css. Nothing in here is being used anymore. I'm going to delete this file. Now, the way this is set up right now, I think in order to really take advantage of oh, here's the problem. So how is this going to work? Right. So, you didn't find the mosquito? Oh no. Well, as long as it's only one, I'm sure it will not be a problem. So thinking about this right now, the problem with just taking the problem with taking like the whole app as it is, I mean, besides the fact that we have extra bits and pieces that we don't need or care about here, is that like we have these props hard-coded, right? And we don't want to do that. We want something that's going to allow us to pass these things in from the Django app, like through the template into this. It's a problem. It's definitely a problem. Now, what are we going to do about this? So, I'm really not sure. I think I said earlier on in the stream that I had an objective, but I had not figured out all the steps, and this is an example of that. So the problem is, if do I want to just show what's going to happen? I guess so. Let's keep on going. Let me rebuild the somewhere. There we go. All right. npm run. Wait, no, we're not in the right directory. npm run build. Rebuild the CSS. Right. That's not being referred to anymore, so we can, or rather the opposite. The file doesn't exist, so we need to remove the reference. All right. So we have assets now, a JS file and a CSS file. It's weird that there's... oh, right. Okay. Do I want to keep any of this? I think not. Just like really get this. Here we go. And run build again. There we go. Now we just have a JavaScript file. Even simpler. Yeah, then you can just create a component from the chat dialog. Let's, you know, let's check that out. See if we can find what that is. Django components, you say? Is this it? A way to create simple reusable template components? I don't think so. Let's you create a template component that contains both the template, the JavaScript, and CSS needed to generate the front-end code. Component looks like this, and what gets rendered is this. You're advised to read this. So this is not gonna be enough, I think. Create your first component. Yeah, this section right here, right? So you need a CSS file, you need a JavaScript file. Yep. So, I guess let me cut to the chase. So the component that we have here, the main thing that we've accomplished, we can see here in app.tsx, is this chat dialog component. Now, some of these things, I mean, we wanted to hard code. My vision of this was effectively hard coding them at the level of the Django app, right, where we are using the component. And then some of these things are supposed to be from things we're pulling from the database and injecting into the template, which we can do in the Django admin. Like, we can have a custom thing somehow, some way. Yeah, I think the issue, again, cutting to the chase, the issue is that how do we get data into here? Like, these aren't parameterized. We would need a way to like, how would this work? I mean, we could here you go. Here's what you do. You just do like window.transcript. Yeah, declare it. Yeah, that would be very weird, right? That would be very weird to do. But then you could have some, JavaScript generated by the template that would set that global, but it would be weird. Is there actually a good way of like injecting this component into a Django app? Oh, and use we could use the transcript. That's the word that I was looking for. Like this, right? But that's knowledge coalescing. Yeah, that's what that is called. Correct. We would just need to declare it on window if we wanted to do that. But it is very odd. What we could do is get the data from a global function. No. I don't know if there's... Yeah, just going with one or the other would make things easier, right? And not a weird mess of both. But that's that's often the reality of the situation, is that you have one thing, and if you could switch to a different tool, but then you give up things from the other one. And if you could just use both, wouldn't that be so much better? except now you have to integrate them together. And I don't know if there's a good solution for doing this that I would be happy with. Now, let's think about this. So, what was the reasoning behind, why did I even use React? Because it seemed easy. At the beginning of the stream, it seemed like the easiest way to move forward. So what if we didn't? What if we just, yeah, real easy. Look, it was easy until it wasn't. Could we just use some JavaScript and DOM manipulation or something along those lines? Just imagine that. Do you even need jQuery now? Can't you just use just standard DOM methods to do things? We could try it. Right? What if we had... what if we had a... let's just make it a test.html. Sure. And then we're just going to make some things here. And for that, Django components be quite nice. Maybe. I mean, I'm not really attached to using Django. I don't think there is enough time to get a result today if we try to move away from Django, right? I mean, I haven't even built the API endpoint. Now, here's a thought. Actually, before we get down this road, here's a thought. We don't need the Let me think about this for a second. What if I'm considering some options here. And so if we could build the API endpoint in Django and call it from this front end, if they're both if they're both running on localhost, we might be able to call that API from the static app. I have to figure out how to turn off the mock service worker. I just commented out, I guess. Here, just comment this out, and then have it call the API in Django. Or just do it all over in Rust. Yeah, I mean, that is a consideration. You kid, but maybe I'm not. I mean, because if we want to keep, I do like React, although, you know, we could try some other front-end framework, but I do like having, like, if I wanted to continue working on this, I would probably just keep on adding more back-end endpoints, like API endpoints, and then having more front-end stuff that interacts with them, instead of, like, there is a limited shelf life for the the approach that I started with Django, like leveraging the Django admin. So it feels pretty natural. Leptos, you say? Are we talking about doing Rust for front end as well? Cutting edge Rust framework designed for building fast, reliable web applications. Okay. Create full stack apps. But it's not as fast as vanilla.js. Yeah, Might as well show what I'm looking at if I'm looking at it. Click me. Vanilla.js is as fast as Vanilla.js. There's a tautology for you. All right. So anyway, okay. What do I want to do right now is a question, because I only have like half an hour before I need to like get some lunch. I have to eat at some point. What to do? So I could cheat and just have the front end call OpenAI directly. I could. It's 8 p.m. for you. Yes, time zones. Gosh. Yeah, it was, I think I mentioned, so like a month ago, I flew to Poland, and that was quite quite an adjustment to go, we're talking from West Coast of the United States to Central European summertime, so that's however many hours difference that is, like 9 hours. Yeah. I mean, if you think 1 hour is bad, that's it was unpleasant, but Poland was nice once I recovered from the jet lag. Yes, the change happening in different weekends. Yes, fun for meeting scheduling. Okay, so what am I gonna do here? I could cheat. I just have to be careful about not showing the token for the OpenAPI endpoint. I could make so the problem. I mean, I could make an endpoint without authentication in Django just to do it, and then call it from this. Yeah, just create an API in Python and call that, because I do already have the code to do that, to like call it. That might be the easiest thing to do. And then I think if I want to continue down this road, yeah, well, I mean, it's only running locally. It's running a local host. It's not accessible. My computer is not accessible from the outside world. I'm behind, a bunch of different things that I don't need to talk about the details of. But, yeah, I should be fine. Is it really? All right, so I'm not going to worry about static file serving. I'm going to back that out. I'm going to go back to here. And let's see. Let's make a printer ports open. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's all natted anyway, right? So first you'd have to hack the main router going to the outside world, and then go from there. Although that is probably not all that hard. I don't know. What am I doing? I want to make a view. Okay, so we're going to make a view. Automatically create port forwards in the router. This one shouldn't. Create a view that accepts and returns JSON. Def. Come on, Copilot. Do the work for me. Yeah, and if those printers have a security issue, your network goes boom. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That is not what I want. Let's say send messages to OpenAI. Brilliant. I think I gave it enough context to figure out what to do. Let's see. Messages equals request dot. Is it post? How does I don't even have stuff set up to do Python in this editor. Yeah, I have the API key in a file, so I can just read the file. Yeah, and that file is inside of the directory inside of Docker, so I should just be able to read the file, and that'll be fine. And then maybe just hiding the env file using settings.json. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Right now, I need to remember how to Django parse request JSON. Because, look, I've not done anything in Django in like a decade. Request that body. And then we can use... Never got into Django because it uses Python. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about Python. Python does weird stuff. So the last time I used Python daily, like for work, I was we also had a front end, so the back end was Python, not using Django, but using Pyramid. And JSON. Oh yeah, and the GIL and stuff. Variable scoping, global versus yeah. Is request that body? Does that work? I don't know what the type of request that body is. Okay, I think it's a string. So messages equals that. Yeah. Yep, that's why like the only coding stream I do during the yeah, what am I even saying? The only coding streams I do are on Sundays because I don't really think it's problematic enough trying to get through stuff. You know, having most of the a good portion of the weekend and having some separation from work, but I just don't have it in me to do coding streams after work. Although, yeah. Anyway, how do we even Django return HTTP response? Yeah. Okay. This seems to think it knows what it's doing. Import from... Okay. That's believable. All right. Well, I hope you enjoy your dinner. And good luck with the homework. You seem to have a busy life. Thanks for hanging out and asking questions and all of that. I'll be at this for a little bit more. Maybe we can find someone to raid here in 15 minutes or so. We'll see. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. So I have some code already in my Jupyter notebook. We can maybe try that. It would be hilarious if somehow, I mean, there's no way. Well, I guess I've definitely seen Copilot take bits of text from other places. I don't know if it's only like open files or not, but definitely from other places and like emit them again. So I guess it's not inconceivable that it could try to autocomplete and then put the actual API key there, but that's not what happens. All right, so then we can do this, And here is something you should not do in real life. Take data from a client, and then, we're authenticated, right, with the API key, and then talk to some other external service without doing any kind of message validation. Especially in a view, like, this is going to be a view that, for right now, because I'm just running locally, is not going to have authentication. So this is like, don't do this. I'm doing this because I want to have something to show for the stream, to have a little bit of progress. This is not something that you would want to do in real life. So we'll get a response, and it has choices, and we are probably just going to take the first choice. So we're going to say returned message equals response sub choices sub 0 sub text, except it's just choices sub 0 sub message. Actually, choices 0 message, right? Is that? And then we're going to take messages and append return message. Exactly. So if there we go. All right, so this might actually work. Now we need to go into our something. I think we need to make a urls.py. Create a urls.py for this Django application. I wonder if Copilot can do this. I've not had a lot of luck with the chat-based. Okay. I spoke too soon. So, views dot, the actual name of the view is this. And yeah, we'll just do that. And so then in the top level URLs, this is it, or the one in the project. I am going to say path API. How about in a string? API chat. Yeah, and then we just say, how do we do that? Import URLs. That looks familiar. Can we just do that? Does that work? I don't know. Let's see here. So, what's a good way of testing this? So let's first of all, let's go over here to Docker, and so the web app. No module named OpenAI. How many times have I said OpenAPI when I meant OpenAI? I guess if I could get the audio transcription stuff working, I could probably check later. Anyway, I think the issue is that the Docker, no, requirements.txt. Now it has OpenAPI. Oh, we've probably not rebuilt the container for the front end since requirements was updated. Can we do that easily from here? Let's see, what if we just delete that? Okay, and then Docker compose up T. No, I don't think. I suspect that didn't rebuild. Let's do build web. Is that the right thing? I guess so. Maybe it looks like maybe there was a new Python 3.11 image that became available, because otherwise, yeah, I'd already downloaded a version of that before, and that hasn't changed in my Docker file. This is what the Docker file for the for Django is looking like. both for the front end and for the Celery worker that's listening to Redis for jobs. Let's see, there's no one that I'm following that's live right now that's doing coding related things. Looking for raid targets while we wait for that. Let's see, by category? Let's see. Let's sort maybe low to high. Huh. This is going to take a minute, so I'm just going to keep on looking for who we could raid. TypeScript Lambdas with AWS CDK, but that doesn't look like what's going on there. Ooh, maybe if I search for web development? The category does not exist. Excuse me? Twitch, you're broken. Some pleasant music while we wait for the build to happen. Ooh, building a virtual machine in C. It's not really web dev though. It would be cool if I could filter by web dev. Development, there we go. Hey, that works. There are 5 people, including me, streaming with the web development tag. I guess I found a niche. .NET. Someone learning HTML and CSS. That might be cool to raid them. I don't remember this taking so long last time. There we go. Okay, it's downloading Torch for the Whisper library. Okay, so we have this URL, this empty URL, which is going to be fine because we have the URL in here that prefixes it, which is going to supply API chat to this. So what that should mean is that we can, let me, so if I curl -x post -d messages empty array, is that how that is structured? It's looking for a No, it's looking for an array to be passed into it. Right. That will be the messages. And then HTTP localhost 8000 API chat. So that should exercise this code and probably give us an error because we're not giving any messages, but that's fine. Once this completes, that'd be a quick way to see if this is working. ETA 0, okay. Now we're downloading in via Kublas. Another 317 megabytes. That shouldn't take too long. Let's see if we made this wider. Can we get more info? Okay, this is just a running counter of how long the step is taken. I see. All right. So, here's a question that I need to think about between this stream and the next coding stream. Do I want to... Well, it's interesting, right? So we have this Whisper library for Python. Is there something equivalent or some way we can use that in, say, Rust if we want to re-implement what I have done so far in Rust, just because Rust is fun. Different. That's a question that I could probably just like Google. Open API Whisper Rust. A Rust implementation of OpenAPI's Whisper transcription model using the Rust deep learning framework Burn. So maybe, the other thing to consider with these sorts of things is that even if we build our API like a backend for a front end to use, someone maybe it was Brainless earlier in the stream mentioned microservices. Maybe not, but instead of worrying about let's pick the exact right language that's going to have the right libraries to do the right thing, we can just build multiple API endpoints in different Docker containers and then either call them separately or put, some kind of API gateway in front of them to handle, like if we need authentication or whatever. Cross-cutting concerns can be handled with a layer in front of then different services that are serving different purposes. So that's an option. It's a road to go down, which would mean that, say, I could imagine that the library that I just found for Rust maybe doesn't do quite the same thing. Maybe it doesn't have the same problem that, or makes it obvious what the problem is with my setup, or, all sorts of things are possible. Maybe it's better, maybe it's not. But if we run into a situation where, there isn't really a good option except for like a Python library, we could build a microservice that uses Python and exposes like a single endpoint, and then build other things that use Rust, and then stitch it all together. And that would be kind of an interesting project to do on stream. That would be something where it would be more like a production situation in that, I guess it's having an app that has that's not multi-tier is also a production thing, right? If you have an app that doesn't need the complexity, you shouldn't add it just to add it. But for the purposes of having something interesting to work on stream, that might be more representative of a more complex situation. But anyway, so that I just restarted the container. Does this empty reply from server? What did we see in Docker? So we have a thing. View must be callable. Okay, so we need to do something different in the top level URLs. Is this like... Okay, from import... Is that the way? Is Django going to restart? I'll just restart it. I think it will. At least sometimes I did see that the way I have this set up will restart the app. Okay. Okay, so in the interest of having something that works, I'm just going to import the view and directly use it. I think that works. Could not be resolved. Oh yeah, it's views. There you go. That is... Yeah. Maybe it will work. That's old. So eventually, has a route beginning with a slash, remove this shit, it's unnecessary. Oh yeah, include. Include was the thing we're supposed to use. Okay, well cool. Anyway, does this curl work? Empty reply. Maybe because the server was restarting? Haha! Alright, so that did go somewhere, and it got us a 403 forbidden. This site requires a CSRF cookie when submitting forms. So foiled. We're foiled by CSRF protection, which is another thing we're not prepared to do, to handle in this setting. But it's a good thing. It's another situation where we would need to get the current CSRF token and pass that to the front end, so that when it makes the fetch request to the back end, that token is included. But we can't really do that right now. I think. Oops. Control F, CSRF. Yeah, there's the CSRF view middleware. We can just disable that. Another thing that I'm going to show on stream that you should definitely not ever do, without very good reasons. So now we won't get that. Now we should not have gotten that error. I really thought so anyway. Let's try... Maybe the reload didn't actually reload things properly. Okay. Interesting. I'm surprised. I figured that disabling the CSRF view middleware would be enough to disable that, but okay. So what we have in our future, as the stream is going to end for now, but in the future, I think I'm going to look at a more API centric approach. I was thinking earlier as we were talking about options for like React versus Django, and thanks again for the new follows. It's really appreciated. We're getting really close to that 50 follower goal. There is a tool that I've used in the past, React Admin, which is a nice kind of abstract front end that kind of is the same sort of CRUD UI as you get with Django, but then allows you to plug in whatever backend API to support that you want. So I might pursue doing something like that going forward. Let's see, who are we gonna raid for today? Oh, they went offline, so not them. There are very few people doing web dev. Ooh, this looks like someone maybe just started is doing Python. Yeah, here we go. I'll send you guys over, whoever's left, over there. Yeah, you have a good one as well. So that's going to be it for the stream. Thanks so much, everyone. Be doing usual streams throughout the week. Coding streaming again next Sunday. Here in a few weeks, holidays will start, and I'll have more time to do more streams and more kinds of streams. So excited for that.